I had a typical healthy pregnancy. Everything was great every time I went in for checkups. I went into labor with Evan about 10 days early, and we were birthing at another hospital in the area, pretty typical labor as well. And it wasn't until I started pushing and Evan came into the birth canal that we started to notice that his heart rate would drop. When he came out, he was essentially lifeless. So as soon as they revived him and got a heartbeat, he was immediately placed into therapeutic hypothermia.
Therapeutic hypothermia is a treatment that we do to protect the brain of babies that had difficult time being born. Something can happen, whether it's pressure on the umbilical cord, breaking of the umbilical cord, the placenta coming away from the uterus early. All sorts of things can happen, even just the cord being wrapped around the baby's neck that somehow interrupt the blood flow to the baby. And of course, the brain is not an organ that likes to be deprived of oxygen and glucose for very long. We have to do this all by 6 hours of life because this hypothermia treatment has to be started before you're 6 hours old. Otherwise, it's not shown to be effective. And that's very challenging for us because 3/4 of our babies that we treat at Maine Medical Center are born in surrounding community hospitals. Once we make the decision, we put the baby on, we call it the cooling blanket. So it looks a lot like a heating pad, except what it does is it makes constant contact with the baby's skin. We circulate water that's a lower temperature than the baby through this cooling blanket, and we basically draw heat away from the baby in a very, very carefully regulated way to keep the baby's temperature at 33.5 centigrade, which is about 91 Fahrenheit. And what that does over the 72 hours of the treatment is, much like putting ice on a sprained ankle, it decreases the swelling and it helps protect the brain from injury from lack of oxygen.
Evan was asleep, essentially in a coma for 4 days while he cooled. He had all these wires and feeding tubes and monitors. Dr. Alexa Craig, we're so lucky, was his neurologist, and she would literally wake up throughout the night to check on Evan's brain scans. She was just our angel.
We rewarm a baby over 12 hours after that 72-hour time frame is complete. We do this gradual, slow rewarming over 12 hours. And once that's complete, we take the baby off the cooling blanket and we take the baby off to MRI, and we get a picture of the baby's brain to find out whether or not there was any injury.
To date, he has just crushed every part of his life. He is an avid outdoorsman, loves to run around and hike. Fishing is one of his favorite things to do. You would just never know. It means the world to me that people are willing to invest in the future of all of our babies. The second Evan received this treatment, I wanted to shout it to the hills and get as much support for this program as I could. So all of those donations are changing lives, and it means the world to everyone that goes through Barbara Bush Children's Hospital.